There's a civilization so advanced, so mysterious, that even today we're still piecing together its secrets. Buried beneath the sands of time, the Indus Valley Civilization stands as one of history's greatest enigmas, older than the pyramids, more sprawling than Mesopotamia, yet somehow forgotten by many. What if I told you this ancient society built cities with plumbing systems rivaling modern ones, that they traded across oceans while other cultures were still finding their footing? And here's the real kicker. We've barely scratched the surface of what they left behind. From seals depicting mythical creatures to a script that's defied translation for centuries, the Indus Valley holds wonders that could rewrite history books. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on 25 of these forgotten marvels, each one a clue to understanding a civilization that vanished without a trace. Stick around, because by the end of this journey, you'll see the ancient world in a whole new light. Now, let's step into the heart of Mohenjo-Daro, where the first of our forgotten wonders awaits: the Great Bath. Picture this, a massive rectangular pool, meticulously crafted from finely fitted bricks and sealed with a layer of natural tar to prevent leaks. Stretching nearly 12 meters long and 7 meters wide, with a depth of around 2.5 meters, this wasn't just any bath, it was a masterpiece of ancient engineering. What makes the Great Bath truly extraordinary is its precision. The floor slopes gently toward a central drain, ensuring efficient water flow, while a sophisticated system of corbelled arches and channels kept the structure watertight. Imagine the skill required to achieve this level of detail over 4,000 years ago without modern tools or materials. This wasn't just functionality, it was artistry in motion. But here's where the mystery deepens. What was this bath actually used for? Some archaeologists believe it served as a sacred space for ritual purification, a common practice in many ancient cultures. Others suggest it might have been a communal gathering spot where people came together for ceremonies or even social events. The absence of any other similar structure in the city only adds to its significance, hinting at a special, possibly spiritual purpose. And then there's the surrounding complex, a series of rooms and smaller baths that might have housed priests or served as changing areas. The entire layout suggests a carefully planned space, one that balanced practicality with profound symbolic meaning. The Great Bath isn't just a relic, it's a statement. It tells us that the people of the Indus Valley weren't just advanced, they were visionary. They built not just for survival, but for beauty, for community, and perhaps for something greater than themselves. As we move forward, remember this: if their baths were this sophisticated, what other marvels are still waiting to be uncovered? Leaving behind the sacred waters of Mohenjo-Daro, our journey now takes us to the bustling coastal city of Lothal, where commerce and engineering converged in one of history's earliest known dockyards. This wasn't just a harbor, it was a testament to the Indus Valley's maritime prowess, a carefully constructed hub that connected the civilization to distant lands. Picture a massive rectangular basin, roughly 215 meters long and 37 meters wide, carved into the earth with remarkable precision. What made this dockyard extraordinary was its lock gate system, an innovation that allowed sailors to control water levels with astonishing accuracy. As tides rose and fell, wooden gates could be opened or closed to maintain the ideal depth for ships, preventing them from running aground during low tide. This wasn't just practical, it was visionary, demonstrating a deep understanding of tidal patterns centuries before other civilizations mastered such techniques. But the genius didn't stop there. The dockyard was strategically positioned near the mouth of the Sabarmati River, linking it to an extensive network of inland waterways. Archaeologists have uncovered evidence of warehouses nearby, packed with goods like beads, pottery, and precious metals, all carefully weighed using the standardized weights we'll explore later in our journey. These finds suggest Lothal wasn't just a port, it was a thriving trade nexus, possibly exchanging goods with Mesopotamia, where Indus seals have been discovered. What's equally fascinating is the craftsmanship behind the dock's construction. The walls were reinforced with kiln-fired bricks, resistant to erosion from constant water exposure, while a spillway diverted excess water during monsoon seasons. Such foresight reveals a society that didn't just react to nature but adapted to it with ingenuity. Today, as we walk the ruins of Lothal, we're left to marvel at how this ancient people harnessed the rhythms of the sea and rivers, transforming them into highways of commerce. Their dockyard wasn't just functional, it was a blueprint for the future, a forgotten wonder that redefined what was possible in the ancient world. And as we'll soon see, their innovations didn't end at the water's edge. Now, let's turn our attention from the bustling docks of Lothal to a small but profoundly mysterious artifact, the Pashupati Seal. Unearthed in Mohenjo-Daro, this tiny soapstone carving, no larger than a modern-day coin, has sparked debates among historians for decades. At first glance, it appears simple. A seated figure, legs crossed in what resembles a yogic posture, surrounded by animals, a rhinoceros, an elephant, a tiger, and a buffalo. Yet, this seal might hold the key to understanding the spiritual heartbeat of the Indus Valley people. The figure at the center is often called proto-Shiva, a name that links him to the later Hindu deity Shiva, the lord of animals and asceticism. His posture is striking, some say meditative, with arms outstretched and hands resting lightly on his knees, almost as if in a gesture of blessing or control over the creatures around him. The presence of horns or a headdress adds to the mystique, suggesting divine or shamanic symbolism. Could this be evidence of early yogic practices or even a precursor to Shaivism, one of Hinduism's oldest traditions? The parallels are tantalizing, but the truth remains just out of reach. What makes the seal so controversial is the absence of written records to confirm its meaning. Some scholars argue the figure represents a deity, a lord of beasts akin to Shiva, or even a Mesopotamian god like Enki, given the trade links between the civilizations. Others propose it's a tribal shaman, a mediator between humans and the natural world. The animals might symbolize power, the four directions, or even seasons, each interpretation adding layers to the mystery. One thing is clear, the seal reflects a deep reverence for nature and the supernatural, a theme that echoes across later Indian spiritual traditions. Equally fascinating is the seal's craftsmanship, the intricate detailing, from the precise lines of the animals to the serene expression of the central figure, suggests it wasn't just a utilitarian object but a sacred talisman or a ritual item. Found among other seals and small artifacts, it hints at a society where spirituality permeated daily life, possibly in ways we're only beginning to grasp. The Pashupati Seal doesn't just invite questions, it challenges our assumptions about the spiritual roots of South Asia. Was this the dawn of ideas that would shape millennia of belief? Or is it a glimpse of a philosophy lost to time? As we continue our journey, remember, sometimes the smallest artifacts speak the loudest. Moving from the spiritual enigma of the Pashupati Seal, let's uncover another puzzle that has baffled archaeologists for over a century, the so-called unicorn seals. These small, square stone carvings, found in abundance across Indus Valley sites, feature a peculiar creature that looks nothing like the mythical unicorns of European legends. Instead, this beast resembles a bull with a single, curved horn protruding from its forehead, often standing before what appears to be a ritual object or altar. Why call it a unicorn? Early excavators, struck by the horn's prominence, borrowed the term, but the creature's true identity remains hotly debated. Some argue it's a stylized bull, a sacred animal in many ancient cultures, while others suggest it could be a composite of multiple animals, a symbolic hybrid. The most intriguing theory, that the horn isn't a horn at all. It might represent a ritual vessel or even a plant, transforming the scene into a sacrificial offering or harvest ceremony. What's undeniable is the seal's ubiquity. Thousands have been discovered, far outnumbering other motifs, hinting that this image held special significance. Were these seals used as trade markers, stamped onto goods to denote ownership or quality? Their uniformity suggests mass production, possibly by a centralized authority. Yet, the lack of variation in the unicorn design, unlike the diverse animal motifs on other seals, raises questions. Why this one creature repeated so obsessively? Theories abound. One school of thought links the unicorn to a clan symbol or a protective emblem, much like family crests in later cultures. Another proposes it represented a deity or a totem, a unifying symbol for the civilization's scattered cities. The absence of the unicorn in other Indus art forms like pottery or sculptures deepens the mystery. If it was so important, why does it appear only on seals? Equally puzzling is the object placed before the unicorn on many seals, a stand-like structure sometimes called a sacrificial altar. Is this a feeding trough, a fire pit for rituals, or something entirely different? The answer could reshape our understanding of Indus Valley spirituality. The unicorn seals defy easy interpretation, much like the civilization's undeciphered script. They remind us that the Indus Valley people communicated in symbols we're still struggling to read. Were these seals mundane administrative tools, or did they carry a deeper, lost meaning? Until we crack their code, the unicorn remains one of history's most enduring riddles. As we peel back the layers of this ancient mystery, let's turn next to a marvel of urban planning that rivals modern cities, the grid-planned streets of Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa. How did a civilization 5,000 years ago achieve such precision? The answers might surprise you. Now, shifting our gaze from the enigmatic symbols of the unicorn seals, let's step into the very streets where the Indus Valley people lived. Streets so meticulously planned, they rival the orderliness of modern cities. Imagine walking through Mohenjo-Daro or Harappa 5,000 years ago. You wouldn't find chaotic, winding alleys. Instead, you'd see wide, straight roads cutting across each other at perfect right angles, forming a grid so precise it feels almost mathematical. What's astonishing is how these cities were designed with foresight and uniformity. The streets weren't just haphazardly laid out, they followed a master plan. Main avenues, some as wide as 30 feet, ran north to south and east to west, dividing the city into neat blocks. Smaller lanes branched off, ensuring every neighborhood was connected. This wasn't just about aesthetics, it was about efficiency. Goods could move smoothly, people could navigate easily, and the entire city functioned like a well-oiled machine. Then there's the brickwork. Every single brick in these cities, whether used for homes, wells, or even drains, was standardized. They were all baked to the same size and shape, with a ratio of 4 to 2 to 1, a consistency rarely seen in other ancient civilizations. This standardization suggests a centralized authority overseeing construction, ensuring quality control on an industrial scale. Think of it like an ancient version of modern building codes, where every detail was regulated for durability and uniformity. But the real genius lies beneath the streets. The Indus Valley people didn't just plan above ground, they engineered below it. Their drainage systems were centuries ahead of their time. Every home had its own bathing area and wastewater disposal, connected to covered drains that ran along the streets. These drains were designed with slopes to ensure water flowed smoothly, and they even had inspection chambers for maintenance. Compare this to ancient Rome, where open sewers were common, or medieval Europe, where waste often flooded the streets. The Indus Valley's approach was staggeringly advanced. And let's not forget the public infrastructure. Great granaries stored surplus harvests, ensuring food security. Wells provided clean water to every neighborhood. Even the houses were thoughtfully designed, with inner courtyards for light and ventilation. This wasn't just urban planning, it was urban living designed for comfort, health, and sustainability. So how does this compare to modern cities? In many ways, we're still catching up. While we have skyscrapers and subways, our urban sprawl often lacks the harmony of these ancient grids. Modern planners now advocate for walkable cities with mixed-use zones, concepts the Indus Valley mastered millennia ago. Their emphasis on sanitation, standardized construction, and efficient layouts feels eerily contemporary. Yet mysteries remain. Why did every city follow this same rigid grid? Was it for control, for ease of trade, or perhaps a cultural preference for order? And how did they maintain such precision without the tools we have today? The answers may lie buried in the ruins, waiting to be uncovered. As we marvel at these urban wonders, let's turn next to a small but captivating artifact that reveals the artistic soul of this civilization, the dancing girl statue. A masterpiece in bronze, she offers a glimpse into a world where art and everyday life were beautifully intertwined. Now, moving from the grand urban planning of the Indus Valley, let's zoom in on something far smaller in size but no less magnificent, the dancing girl statue. This tiny bronze figure, just over 10 centimeters tall, packs an artistic punch that rivals any masterpiece from antiquity. Discovered in Mohenjo-Daro, she stands with one hand on her hip, the other resting lightly on her thigh, her head tilted slightly as if caught mid-movement. Despite her diminutive stature, she exudes a sense of life and energy that feels almost timeless. What makes this statue so extraordinary is its craftsmanship. Cast using the lost wax technique, a method far ahead of its time, the dancing girl showcases a level of metallurgical skill that few ancient cultures could match. Every detail, from the delicate curve of her arms to the bracelets stacked along her wrist, was rendered with astonishing precision. The artisans even captured the naturalistic sway of her pose, suggesting motion and grace. This wasn't just metalwork, it was artistry in its purest form. But who was she? The name Dancing Girl comes from her confident, almost playful stance, leading many to believe she represents a dancer or performer. Yet, some scholars argue she might symbolize something deeper, a goddess, a ritual figure, or even an everyday woman immortalized in bronze. What's undeniable is that she reflects a culture that valued both beauty and individual expression. Unlike the rigid, formal sculptures of Mesopotamia or Egypt, the dancing girl feels refreshingly human. Her slightly asymmetrical features and relaxed posture suggest a society that celebrated spontaneity and realism in art. Then there's the question of dance itself. Did the Indus Valley people have a tradition of dance as ritual or entertainment? While we lack definitive evidence, the statue's dynamic pose hints at a familiarity with movement and rhythm. Perhaps dance was woven into their ceremonies or social gatherings, much like in later Indian cultures. The fact that such care was taken to preserve this moment in bronze speaks volumes about its cultural significance. Equally fascinating is what the dancing girl tells us about status and fashion. Her multiple bangles, necklace, and elaborately styled hair suggest a society with a keen sense of adornment. These weren't crude decorations but carefully crafted accessories, indicating a thriving artisan class and possibly even trade in luxury goods. Was she a high-status individual, or does her attire reflect broader aesthetic trends? The answer remains elusive, but her elegance offers a rare glimpse into the personal lives of the Indus Valley people. Today, the dancing girl stands as a bridge between past and present. She reminds us that even 5,000 years ago, people sought to capture the joy of movement, the spark of individuality, and the allure of beauty. While the Indus Valley script remains unread and its cities silent, this little bronze figure speaks volumes. And speaking of artistry, let's turn our attention next to the civilization's most enduring mystery, the undeciphered script that has puzzled linguists for decades. What secrets might those cryptic symbols hold? Now, shifting our focus from the expressive artistry of the dancing girl, we encounter a mystery that has baffled scholars for over a century, the undeciphered script of the Indus Valley Civilization. Etched onto seals, pottery, and copper tablets, these cryptic symbols are one of the last great puzzles of the ancient world. With over 400 distinct characters, the script is tantalizingly close to a true writing system, yet its meaning remains just out of reach. What makes this script so enigmatic? Unlike Egyptian hieroglyphs or Mesopotamian cuneiform, which were decoded using bilingual inscriptions like the Rosetta Stone, the Indus script has no such key. Most inscriptions are frustratingly short, just a handful of symbols, and appear primarily on small seals, often alongside animal motifs like the famous unicorn. Some researchers believe these were trade markers or ownership tags, while others argue they could be religious incantations or even early forms of poetry. Without longer texts or a linguistic bridge, cracking the code has become a monumental challenge. The script's uniqueness adds another layer of intrigue. Its symbols range from simple geometric shapes like loops, branches, and zigzags to more complex, almost pictographic designs resembling fish, jars, or human figures. Some sequences repeat across different artifacts, hinting at a structured language, but whether it's logographic symbols representing words or syllabic symbols representing sounds is still hotly debated. Recent computer analyses suggest it may even combine both, much like modern Japanese writing. Despite the obstacles, there have been glimmers of progress. In the last 2 decades, advanced statistical modeling and machine learning have identified possible patterns in symbol sequences, supporting the theory that the script encodes a spoken language, not just random pictograms. A groundbreaking study in 2021 used AI to compare the script structure to known languages, finding similarities with early Dravidian tongues still spoken in South India today. Could this be a clue, perhaps, but without a dramatic discovery like a lengthy Indus Valley document? These theories remain educated guesses. Why does deciphering this script matter so much? Imagine finally hearing the voices of a civilization that mastered urban planning, trade, and art 5,000 years ago. Their writing could reveal everything from daily economic transactions to religious beliefs, political systems, or even literature. Right now, we're piecing together their story through archaeology alone, like trying to understand a movie by only watching the scenery. The script is the missing dialogue, and unlocking it could rewrite history. So, what's next for the hunt? Archaeologists continue to excavate sites like Dolivera, where a 10-symbol inscription was found near a ceremonial gate, suggesting public or ritual use. Meanwhile, linguists collaborate with computer scientists to refine their models. It's a race against time as urbanization threatens undiscovered Indus sites. But if the code is ever cracked, it won't just solve a mystery, it will resurrect an entire civilization's thoughts, dreams, and legacy. With this in mind, let's turn to another pillar of the Indus Valley sophistication, their remarkably precise system of weights and measures, which reveals just how tightly organized their society really was. Shifting to another remarkable aspect of the Indus Valley, we uncover a system so precise it rivals modern standards, their meticulously standardized weights and measures. This wasn't just a practical innovation, it was a reflection of a society built on fairness, order, and far-reaching trade connections. Imagine a civilization where merchants from distant cities could trust that a weight labeled 1 unit in Mohenjo-Daro would match perfectly with the same unit in Harappa or Lothal. The Indus Valley achieved this with an almost obsessive attention to detail. Their weights, primarily made of chert, a durable stone, followed a strict binary and decimal system. The smallest units, as light as half a gram, were likely used for precious goods like gemstones or spices, while larger ones, reaching up to nearly 13 kilograms, suggest trade in bulk commodities like grains or metals. What's truly astonishing is the uniformity. Archaeologists have found these weights across vast distances from the shores of the Arabian Sea to the foothills of the Himalayas, with minimal variation. A cube-shaped weight unearthed in Harappa, for example, would be virtually identical to one discovered 500 kilometers away in Dockyard. This consistency hints at a powerful central authority, perhaps a guild or governing body that enforced these standards. Unlike contemporary Mesopotamia, where weights varied by city, the Indus system was a masterclass in coordination. The measures extended beyond weight. Excavations reveal carefully marked ivory scales and bronze rods, suggesting standardized lengths for textiles, wood, or even construction materials. At Lothal, a brick-lined pit was discovered with precise dimensions matching the recurring ratios seen in their architecture. This wasn't accidental. It was a deliberate system ensuring that a unit of length in one city equaled the same elsewhere, streamlining everything from house building to shipmaking. Why did this matter? Picture a bustling Indus marketplace. Traders from Mesopotamia brought silver and lapis lazuli, while local merchants offered cotton, ivory, and beads. Without a shared measurement system, disputes would erupt, trust would crumble, and commerce would stall. The Indus weights and measures acted as a silent language of trust, smoothing transactions across cultures and distances. Mesopotamian records even mention Meluhha, believed to be the Indus region, as a source of exotic goods, proof that this system facilitated international trade. The implications go deeper. Such standardization required not just authority but communication. How did remote settlements stay aligned with the central system? Some scholars propose itinerant inspectors or even weight kits sent as official references. Others point to the ubiquitous unicorn seals, suggesting they might have certified standardized goods. While we may never know the exact mechanism, the system's success is undeniable. Yet mysteries linger. Why did the weights follow a binary decimal hybrid, unlike the purely decimal systems of Egypt or Mesopotamia? Some theorize it reflects a cultural preference for base 8, seen in their brick ratios. Others wonder if it served dual purposes: small binary units for luxury items, decimal for bulk trade. Whatever the reason, it underscores the civilization's unique intellect. As we marvel at these ancient innovations, let's turn next to an equally ingenious facet of their society: their advanced water conservation systems, which transformed arid landscapes into thriving urban centers. Moving from the precision of weights and measures to another testament of Indus Valley brilliance, their mastery over water reveals an environmental wisdom far ahead of its time. In a landscape where monsoon rains were unpredictable and rivers could shift course, these ancient engineers devised solutions so effective they continue to astonish modern hydrologists. At the heart of their innovation were the Great Bath sister structures, dozens of public wells, strategically placed across cities like Mohenjo-Daro. Unlike simple pits, these were feats of engineering. Builders lined them with wedge-shaped bricks that interlocked like puzzle pieces, preventing collapse even under pressure. The wells weren't just functional, they were democratic. Positioned at street intersections or near clusters of homes, they ensured no resident had to walk far for clean water. Archaeologists note how their circular design minimized evaporation, a crucial detail in the scorching Indus plains, but the real marvel lies beneath the streets. The civilization's drainage systems, often praised for sanitation, doubled as rainwater harvesters. Channels sloped gently toward sunken courtyards or reservoirs, capturing every precious drop during downpours. In Dockyard, a city perched in the arid Rann of Kutch, they built a network of 16 interconnected reservoirs. These weren't mere pools. Their walls were coated with lime plaster to reduce seepage, and overflow channels redirected excess water to replenish groundwater. Satellite imagery shows how these reservoirs could hold enough water to sustain the city's estimated 30,000 inhabitants through drought seasons. The ingenuity extended to household levels. Excavations revealed terracotta pipes fitted into walls, likely directing rooftop runoff to underground storage jars. At sites like Kalibangan, courtyards featured permeable brick floors that filtered rainwater into cisterns, a rudimentary but effective purification system. Even their urban planning played a role. Cities were often built on elevated mounds, not just for flood protection but to create gravity-fed water distribution. Perhaps most striking is how they tailored solutions to local conditions. In hilly areas like Shortugai, they channeled mountain springs through stone aqueducts. Coastal Lothal used tidal gates in its dockyard to manage both trade and freshwater intake. This adaptability suggests a deep ecological awareness. They didn't impose one-size-fits-all solutions but worked with their environment. Modern researchers draw parallels to today's water-stressed regions. The Indus Valley's reliance on decentralized systems community wells over massive centralized tanks mirrors contemporary pushes for localized water management. Their emphasis on recharge and storage offers lessons for areas battling depletion of groundwater. Yet mysteries endure. How did they maintain these systems without metal tools? Some posit that rotating teams of laborers handled upkeep, while others speculate about lost technologies. The absence of grand inscriptions boasting of these achievements speaks volumes for the Indus people. Water conservation wasn't a marvel to be celebrated but a necessity woven into daily life. As we reflect on these ancient aqua architects, our next wonder invites us into their homes specifically, the unexpected treasures found in their children's rooms, the whimsical terracotta toys that humanize this enigmatic civilization. After marveling at the Indus Valley's grand water systems, we step into a more intimate space, their homes, where echoes of laughter still linger in the form of tiny terracotta treasures. These aren't just artifacts, they're time capsules of childhood in one of history's most enigmatic civilizations. Among the ruins of Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, archaeologists have uncovered hundreds of miniature animals, wheeled carts, and doll-like figurines, all crafted with remarkable attention to detail. A favorite discovery is a tiny terracotta monkey, its limbs articulated to swing from strings, suggesting it was a pull-along toy. Another shows a bull with a movable head, likely nodding as children tugged it across floors. The craftsmanship reveals something profound. These weren't hastily made playthings but objects of care designed to delight. The toys also hint at a society that valued play as part of learning. Small carts with functioning axles mirror the full-sized versions used for trade, possibly helping children understand adult roles. Miniature spinning tops and marbles speak of universal games, while bird-shaped whistles suggest music was part of their play. Most touching are the jumping jack figurines with movable arms, early puppets that may have starred in impromptu storytelling sessions. What's equally fascinating is what's absent. Unlike later civilizations, Indus toys show no weapons or warrior figures. Instead, we find terracotta cows with detachable calves, echoing an agrarian lifestyle, and tiny pots that may have been part of pretend kitchen sets. This absence of militaristic themes aligns with the civilization's puzzling lack of fortifications or warfare depictions. The materials tell their own story. Made from locally sourced clay and fired at low temperatures, these toys were accessible to many, not just elites. Some show traces of paint, suggesting they were once brightly colored. Archaeologists even found workshops where toys were mass-produced using molds, proof of a thriving cottage industry catering to young imaginations. Perhaps most moving is how these toys humanize the Indus people. A cracked figurine of a mother cradling a child, or a small cart with worn wheels from endless play. These aren't just artifacts but intimate snapshots of daily life. They remind us that behind the grand cities and engineering marvels were real families, where children giggled over clay animals and parents cherished moments of simple joy. As we cradle these fragments of ancient childhood in our minds, our next wonder pulls us toward another craft that dazzled the ancient world, the intricate bead-making industry that turned tiny stones into treasures. Now, shifting our focus from the delicate terracotta toys to the very foundations of the Indus Valley cities, we come across an innovation so sturdy it has endured for millennia: the burnt brick. Step into any of the great cities like Mohenjo-Daro or Harappa, and you'll find walls, wells, and even entire streets built from these remarkably uniform bricks. What makes them extraordinary isn't just their widespread use, but the sheer precision behind their creation. Each brick was meticulously standardized with a ratio of 4:2:1 in its dimensions, a consistency that speaks volumes about the civilization's advanced understanding of engineering and planning. Unlike sun-dried bricks used by other ancient cultures, the Indus people took it a step further. They fired their bricks in kilns at high temperatures, making them incredibly durable. This wasn't just a random choice, it was a necessity. The Indus Valley's climate, with its heavy monsoon rains and occasional floods, demanded materials that could withstand the elements. And these bricks did exactly that, resisting erosion and decay for over 4,000 years. The advantages of this burnt brick technology went beyond durability. Their uniform size allowed for rapid, efficient construction, enabling the Indus people to build entire cities with grid-like precision. Streets lined with these bricks were engineered with slight slopes, directing rainwater into sophisticated drainage systems, another testament to their forward-thinking urban planning. Even more impressive is how these bricks were used in water-resistant structures like the Great Bath, where layers of bitumen sealed the gaps, creating a watertight marvel that still holds clues to their hydraulic expertise. But the true genius lies in the scale of production. Archaeologists have unearthed massive brick kilns outside city centers, suggesting an organized industry capable of supplying millions of bricks for urban expansion. The bricks weren't just functional, they were a symbol of societal coordination. Whether in the construction of granaries to store surplus harvests or in the multi-story homes of wealthy merchants, these bricks built more than walls, they built a civilization's identity. What's equally fascinating is how these bricks reflect the Indus Valley's priorities. While other ancient cultures invested in towering temples or palaces, the Indus people focused on practicality and communal infrastructure. Their burnt bricks were used to create public wells, ensuring clean water for all, and sturdy fortifications that, interestingly, show no signs of battle damage, hinting again at their possibly peaceful society. As we run our hands along these ancient bricks today, we're not just touching fragments of the past, we're connecting with a civilization that mastered materials science long before the modern era. Their bricks were more than building blocks, they were the bedrock of a society that valued resilience, uniformity, and collective well-being. And with that, we turn our attention to another puzzle: why a civilization so advanced left behind no grand temples or palaces, a mystery that challenges our understanding of their world. Now, let's pause for a moment and consider something truly puzzling about the Indus Valley Civilization. Unlike their contemporaries in Mesopotamia or Egypt, who built towering ziggurats and pyramids as monuments to gods and kings, the Indus people left behind no grand temples, no sprawling palaces, no colossal statues proclaiming the power of rulers. This absence isn't just a gap in the archaeological record, it's a deliberate silence that speaks volumes about how this civilization might have functioned. When we look at other ancient societies, their most imposing structures were often tied to religion or political authority. The Egyptians had their mortuary temples for pharaohs, the Mesopotamians their ziggurats dedicated to patron deities. Yet in the ruins of Mohenjo-Daro or Harappa, we find nothing comparable. Instead, the Indus Valley's architectural energy was poured into public infrastructure, wells, drainage systems, granaries, and those remarkably uniform burnt brick houses. Even the so-called citadels in their cities lacked the extravagant ornamentation or size we'd associate with royal power. This has led scholars to propose a fascinating theory. The Indus Valley might have been an egalitarian society, one where wealth and authority were distributed more evenly than in other ancient cultures. The evidence leans in this direction. Their cities show little variation in housing quality, no cramped slums overshadowed by sprawling villas. most residences had access to the same amenities like indoor plumbing and courtyards. Even the artifacts found don't point to a stark class divide. While there are ornaments and tools, there's no opulent hoard of gold or jewels reserved for a privileged few. Could this mean they had no kings or priests holding absolute power? It's possible. Some researchers suggest governance might have been collaborative, perhaps led by councils of merchants or elders. The uniformity in weights, measures, and even brick sizes across distant cities hints at a shared system rather than top-down decrees. Even their seals, often used in trade, lack the grandiose inscriptions of rulers found elsewhere. But let's be cautious, absence of evidence isn't always evidence of absence. It's equally plausible that their symbols of power were perishable like wood, or that future excavations could overturn current theories. Yet the contrast remains striking. While Egypt's pyramids declared the divinity of pharaohs and Mesopotamia's ziggurats bridged earth and heaven, the Indus Valley's priorities seem rooted in practicality and collective welfare. Their monuments were the very cities themselves, functional, inclusive, and built to last. This isn't to say they lacked spirituality. The famous Pashupati Seal and fire altars at sites like Kalibangan suggest religious practices, but these were modest in scale. Perhaps their beliefs didn't require grand displays, or maybe their rituals were decentralized, woven into daily life rather than monumentalized. What's undeniable is how this civilization challenges our assumptions. In a world where ancient hierarchies are often taken for granted, the Indus Valley stands apart, a reminder that sophistication doesn't always mean pyramids or palaces. Their legacy lies in the quiet revolutions of urban planning, equality, and resilience. And as we unravel more of their secrets, we're left to wonder, did they choose a different path, or is their story simply waiting to be read in a language we've yet to decipher? With that, we turn to another facet of their ingenuity, their advanced metallurgy, where copper, bronze, and gold reveal yet another layer of their brilliance. Now, shifting our focus to another remarkable aspect of the Indus Valley, let's uncover their mastery of metallurgy, a craft where precision met artistry. While their cities dazzle with urban planning, their skill with metals reveals a society equally advanced in technology and aesthetics. Take copper, for instance. The Indus Valley people didn't just mine it, they transformed it. Archaeologists have found finely crafted copper tools, from chisels and knives to fish hooks, each designed with a keen understanding of function and durability. These weren't crude implements. The blades show evidence of deliberate annealing, a process where metal is heated and cooled to strengthen it. This technique, still used today, hints at an early grasp of material science that set them apart from their contemporaries. But copper was just the beginning. Bronze, an alloy of copper and tin, became their signature medium. The Indus Valley's bronze artifacts are a testament to their technical ingenuity. Consider the iconic dancing girl statue, cast in bronze over 4,000 years ago. Her slender, lifelike form, with one hand on her hip and the other poised mid-movement, captures a fluidity that rivals later classical art. Achieving this required the lost wax technique, a complex method where a wax model is encased in clay, melted away, and replaced with molten metal. The sophistication here isn't just artistic, it's a window into their systematic approach to craftsmanship. Gold, though rarer in the archaeological record, showcases their flair for ornamentation. Elaborate necklaces, bangles, and beads found at sites like Mohenjo-Daro reveal a society that valued beauty as much as utility. Thin gold foils, delicately shaped into floral patterns, suggest advanced hammering and soldering skills. What's striking is the consistency in quality across distant sites, implying standardized techniques or even specialized workshops catering to a pan-Indus aesthetic. Beyond adornments, their metallurgy served practical needs. Bronze vessels, for example, were designed with thin, even walls, a feat requiring precise control over casting temperatures. Tools like saws and axes bear minimal wear, suggesting they were both durable and widely traded. Even their weighing scales, often made of bronze, reflect a society where commerce relied on trust and uniformity. Yet the real marvel lies in what we don't see. Unlike Egypt or Mesopotamia, where metalwork often glorified rulers or gods, the Indus Valley's creations feel egalitarian. A bronze mirror or a copper pot could belong to a merchant or a craftsman. This absence of ostentation aligns with their architectural ethos: innovation without extravagance. Of course, mysteries remain. Where did they source their tin, a key component of bronze? Some theories point to distant Afghanistan, hinting at vast trade networks. And how did they achieve such consistency in alloys without written recipes? Perhaps their knowledge was orally transmitted, a silent tradition as enigmatic as their script. What's undeniable is how their metallurgy mirrors the civilization itself: practical, refined, and quietly revolutionary. While others built monuments, the Indus Valley forged tools and art that whispered of everyday excellence. And as we examine these artifacts, we're left to ponder. In their hands, metal wasn't just a material, it was a language of skill and subtlety, one we're still learning to decode. With this glimpse into their technical prowess, let's turn to an even more elusive chapter: the civilization's mysterious decline, where climate, rivers, and time conspired to fade their brilliance from history. Now, as we journey deeper into the shadows of the Indus Valley story, we arrive at one of history's most intriguing puzzles: the civilization's sudden and mysterious decline. Unlike other ancient societies that left behind clear records of their fall, the Indus Valley's disappearance feels like a whisper lost in the wind. What could have caused such an advanced culture to vanish so abruptly? Let's unravel the clues left behind. One compelling theory points to dramatic climate change. Around 4,000 years ago, evidence suggests the region's monsoon patterns began to shift. The once reliable rains, which nourished their sprawling farms and filled their reservoirs, may have grown erratic or even failed entirely. Imagine the lifeblood of a civilization, its water drying up. Soil samples from the region reveal layers of silt and sand, hinting at prolonged droughts. Crops would have withered, trade routes faltered, and cities strained under the weight of scarcity. Could environmental stress have pushed this thriving society to the brink? But the climate wasn't the only force at play. Another suspect lies beneath the earth itself: the mighty rivers that define the Indus Valley. Geological studies suggest that the Gagga-Hakra river system, long thought to be the life-giving Sarasvati of ancient texts, may have changed course or even dried up. Satellite imagery shows ancient riverbeds snaking through what's now arid land. For a civilization built around hydraulic mastery, a dying river would have been catastrophic. Cities like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, once hubs of activity, might have been abandoned as people migrated toward surviving water sources. Then there's the question of outside pressures. While the Indus Valley shows little evidence of large-scale warfare, some archaeologists point to signs of social unrest. At sites like Mohenjo-Daro, a handful of skeletons, some bearing injuries, were found in unceremonious heaps, sparking debates about violent conflicts or invasions. Could nomadic groups like the so-called Aryans mentioned in later Vedic texts have played a role? Yet, the lack of widespread destruction or weaponry makes this theory contentious. Perhaps the decline was less about conquest and more about slow disintegration, a fraying of social ties under mounting stresses. Trade, too, may have played a part. The Indus Valley's prosperity depended on far-flung networks reaching Mesopotamia and beyond. As neighboring civilizations like Mesopotamia faced their own upheavals, demand for Indus goods could have dwindled. With fewer trade opportunities, the economic engine that sustained their cities might have sputtered. Artifacts from later layers show a decline in craftsmanship and standardization, as if the system that once produced exquisite beads and weights was unraveling. Yet the most haunting possibility is that no single catastrophe struck. Instead, a cascade of smaller crises, drought, river shifts, economic strain, and social fragmentation could have chipped away at the civilization's resilience. Unlike the dramatic collapses of Rome or the Maya, the Indus Valley's end might have been a slow fade, a quiet retreat from grandeur into smaller, scattered communities. By around 1900 BC, the great cities stood empty, their streets silent. But the story doesn't end there. Elements of Indus culture, weights, pottery styles, even spiritual motifs appear in later cultures like the Cemetery H people, suggesting a legacy that endured even as the civilization itself slipped into obscurity. As we piece together these fragments, the Indus Valley's decline reminds us that even the mightiest societies are fragile in the face of nature's whims and human vulnerability. And with this understanding, let's turn to the next chapter: how the echoes of this civilization lived on in the cultures that followed. Now, let's step into the aftermath of the Indus Valley's decline and discover how its legacy quietly persisted through a lesser-known but fascinating culture, the Cemetery H people. Named after the distinctive burial site discovered in modern-day Pakistan, this post-Indus culture offers tantalizing clues about how traditions from the great civilization lived on, even as its cities crumbled. What makes Cemetery H so intriguing is the way it bridges two worlds. While the grand urban centers of the Indus Valley had faded, the people who remained didn't simply vanish. Instead, they adapted, blending old customs with new influences. Take their burial practices, for instance. Unlike the Indus Valley's earlier graves, which were often simple pits with straightforward burials, Cemetery H graves reveal a striking shift. Here, we find pottery filled with cremated remains, sometimes painted with vivid motifs like peacocks or sunbursts. These designs echo themes seen in later Vedic art, hinting at a cultural evolution. Yet, buried within these changes are echoes of the past. Some pottery styles and motifs bear a clear resemblance to Indus Valley craftsmanship, as if the artisans were still whispering the old language through their work. Then there's the question of spiritual continuity. The Indus Valley's enigmatic seals, like the Pashupati figure, suggest a reverence for nature and possibly early forms of deity worship. In Cemetery H, we see traces of similar themes. Animal motifs persist, though they evolve. Bulls and birds appear alongside new symbols like the wheel, which later becomes central to Vedic iconography. Could these artistic threads mean that certain Indus beliefs were woven into the spiritual tapestry of later cultures? It's a compelling possibility, though one that archaeologists still debate. Material culture tells another part of the story. The Cemetery H people continued using standardized weights, a hallmark of Indus trade, but with slight variations. Their pottery, while distinct, sometimes mirrors the shapes and styles of earlier Indus vessels. Even the humble terracotta figurines, though less refined, carry echoes of the past. These subtle connections suggest that while political or economic systems collapsed, everyday life and craft traditions endured in quieter ways. Of course, not everything was a direct inheritance. The Cemetery H culture also introduced new elements like different housing styles and shifts in social organization. This isn't a simple case of one culture replacing another. It's a complex, gradual transformation. Some scholars argue that the Cemetery H people might represent a mix of Indus survivors and migrating groups, blending traditions into something new. What emerges from the dust of Cemetery H isn't just a footnote to the Indus Valley story, it's a testament to resilience. Even in decline, cultures don't just disappear, they morph, adapt, and leave fragments of themselves in the DNA of what follows. As we turn next to the Indus Valley's far-reaching trade networks, we'll see how these connections stretched far beyond its borders, tying this civilization to the wider ancient world. Now, let's journey beyond the borders of the Indus Valley and uncover a web of connections that stretched across the ancient world. One of the most compelling proofs of this civilization's global reach lies in its thriving trade with Mesopotamia, a relationship that reshaped both regions. The evidence is etched into history literally. Indus Valley seals carved with intricate animal motifs and script have been found in Mesopotamian cities like Ur and Kish. These weren't just random trinkets, they were markers of a sophisticated trade network. Mesopotamian texts even refer to a distant land called Meluha, widely believed to be the Indus Valley, describing it as a source of exotic goods like carnelian beads, ivory, and ebony. Imagine bustling Mesopotamian markets where traders haggled over gleaming Indus jewelry or marveled at the precision of their weighted measures, but the trade wasn't one-sided. Mesopotamian artifacts such as cylinder seals and lapis lazuli from Afghanistan have turned up in Indus cities, showing how ideas and goods flowed both ways. The Indus people didn't just export raw materials, they traded finished products like their famous long-barrel carnelian beads, which were so finely drilled that modern jewelers struggle to replicate the technique. These beads, found in Mesopotamian royal graves, weren't just ornaments, they were status symbols, proof of a luxury trade spanning thousands of miles. What's truly remarkable is how this exchange wasn't just about commerce. Shared artistic motifs, like the Mesopotamian Master of Animals motif resembling the Pashupati Seal, suggest cultural cross-pollination. Even the Dockyard at Lothal, with its advanced hydraulic engineering, hints at a maritime trade route that bypassed overland dangers connecting the Indus to the Persian Gulf. Yet mysteries linger. Why did the trade decline? Was it shifting river routes, political upheaval, or competition from other networks? Whatever the reason, these scattered artifacts whisper of a time when the Indus Valley wasn't just a local marvel, it was a global player. And as we turn next to the stepwells of Dockyard, we'll see how this ingenuity wasn't just reserved for trade but also thrived in the heart of the civilization's water management. While the Indus Valley's trade with Mesopotamia reveals its global reach, its true genius shines in how it mastered one of life's most vital resources, water. Now let's turn our attention to the arid landscapes of Dockyard, where the civilization's engineers tackled a relentless challenge, surviving in a land where rain was scarce and precious. Here, they didn't just dig wells, they transformed water conservation into an art form with their breathtaking stepwells. Dockyard, one of the 5 largest Harappan cities, sits in modern-day Gujarat, a region where droughts were common even 4,000 years ago. Yet the people didn't just endure, they thrived, thanks to their ingenious stepwells. Unlike ordinary wells, these were monumental structures carved deep into the earth with cascading steps that descended to the water's edge. The design wasn't just functional, it was elegant. Each step was precisely measured, ensuring easy access to water even as levels dropped during dry seasons. But these stepwells weren't merely water sources, they were community hubs. Picture farmers gathering at dawn to draw water, children playing on the cool steps, and traders pausing to refill their containers during long journeys. What's truly astounding is the engineering behind them. The stepwells were lined with finely cut sandstone blocks, fitted so tightly that not a drop of water seeped through. Some featured intricate channels to redirect rainwater into reservoirs, maximizing every monsoon shower. Archaeologists have even found evidence of filtering systems, layers of gravel and sand, to purify water before it reached the wells. This wasn't just survival, it was sustainability on a scale that rivals modern practices. Dockyard's stepwells also hint at a deeper cultural significance. Unlike later Indian stepwells, which often doubled as temples, these were purely utilitarian, reflecting the Indus Valley's pragmatic ethos. Yet their grandeur, some reaching depths of over 20 feet, suggests water was more than a resource, it was a symbol of communal harmony. In a civilization where palaces and temples were notably absent, these stepwells might have been their cathedrals, spaces where technology and daily life intertwined. But the real question is, how did they maintain such a complex system? The answer lies in their foresight. D'Oliveira's planners built check dams upstream to slow rainwater runoff, ensuring the stepwells replenished steadily. They even carved rock-cut reservoirs to store excess water, a feat that kept the city alive during years of drought. As we move forward, the ingenuity of the Indus Valley only deepens. Next, we'll examine another marvel, the enigmatic stone sculptures, like the priest king, that offer rare glimpses into the people behind these wonders. For now, let's marvel at D'Oliveira's stepwells, a testament to how this civilization didn't just adapt to nature, they choreographed with it. Now, shifting our gaze from the engineering marvels of water conservation, we uncover a different kind of artistry, one carved in stone. The Indus Valley stone sculptures are rare but revealing, offering us fleeting glimpses into the faces and hierarchies of a civilization that left few portraits behind. Among these, the most famous is the so-called priest king, a small but commanding figure discovered in Mohenjo-Daro. Crafted from steatite, a soft stone that allowed for intricate detailing, the priest king stands just under 7 inches tall, yet his presence is anything but small. His neatly trimmed beard, composed of carefully incised curls, and his serene, half-closed eyes suggest a figure of authority, perhaps a ruler or spiritual leader. The cloak draped over his shoulder, adorned with a trefoil pattern, hints at a desire for symbolism, a visual language meant to convey status or role. What's striking is the absence of grand, larger-than-life statues common in other ancient cultures. Instead, the Indus Valley sculptures are intimate, making their few surviving examples all the more precious. The craftsmanship speaks volumes. The priest king's face is symmetrical, his features balanced, a testament to the artisan's skill in proportion and realism. Unlike the exaggerated expressions of Mesopotamian or Egyptian art, this sculpture exudes calm restraint, echoing the Indus Valley's broader aesthetic of order and precision. His headband, possibly once inlaid with precious materials, suggests access to luxury goods, while his downcast eyes might imply a focus on introspection or ritual. But what does this figure tell us about societal hierarchy? The very title, Priest King, is speculative, reflecting our struggle to interpret a civilization without deciphered texts. Some scholars argue he represents a merging of spiritual and political power, a leader who governed through both ceremony and administration. Others see him as part of a merchant elite, his fine attire signaling wealth rather than divine authority. The scarcity of such sculptures implies that depicting human figures wasn't central to Indus culture, unlike, say, their meticulously carved seals. This absence could suggest an egalitarian society, or perhaps a preference for symbolic over literal representation. Equally intriguing are the handful of other stone fragments found. A dancing figure from Harappa, a torso with delicate musculature. These pieces, though fragmented, share the same refined artistry, hinting at a shared artistic tradition across the civilization. Yet their rarity raises questions. Were sculptures reserved for special occasions, destroyed over time, or simply less valued than other art forms? As we piece together these stone puzzles, we're reminded that the Indus Valley's mysteries are often in what they chose not to show. Their sculptures, few but eloquent, invite us to ponder the balance between authority and anonymity in one of history's most enigmatic cultures. With this in mind, let's turn next to an industry that thrived in the shadows of these stones, the dazzling world of bead-making, where artistry met commerce on an astonishing scale. Moving from the quiet dignity of stone sculptures, we now step into the glittering world of the Indus Valley's bead-making industry, a craft that turned raw materials into objects of desire across ancient trade routes. This wasn't just art, it was an economic powerhouse, and carnelian beads were its crown jewels. Picture this: workers in specialized workshops across cities like Mohenjo-Daro and Lothal, meticulously shaping these fiery red stones into perfect beads. Carnelian, with its rich, translucent hue, was prized for its beauty and durability. But what's truly astounding is the scale of production. Archaeologists have unearthed entire neighborhoods dedicated to bead making, complete with furnaces for heat-treating the stone to deepen its color, and drills made of exceptionally hard minerals like jasper to bore tiny, precise holes. The process was labor-intensive, demanding incredible skill. A single bead could take days to shape, polish, and finish, yet thousands have been found from Mesopotamia to Egypt, proving their mass appeal. The designs were anything but basic. Some beads were etched with white patterns, a technique where artisans applied a bleaching agent to create intricate geometric or floral motifs. Others were shaped into long, barrel forms or delicate discs, each type possibly signaling different trade grades or cultural meanings. The uniformity of these beads across distant sites hints at standardized workshops, almost an ancient assembly line, ensuring every piece met exacting quality controls. But why were these beads so coveted? Beyond their beauty, they were a status symbol. In Mesopotamia, carnelian beads adorned royal tombs and temple offerings. The Indus Valley's traders didn't just export raw materials, they delivered finished luxury goods commanding premium prices. This wasn't random trade, it was targeted commerce. Seals found in Mesopotamian cities like Ur often depict necklaces strikingly similar to Indus designs, suggesting these beads were instantly recognizable brands of prestige. What's equally fascinating is the network behind them. Raw carnelian likely came from distant Gujarat, while lapis lazuli, another popular bead material, traveled all the way from Afghanistan. The Indus people didn't just make beads, they mastered logistics, sourcing materials across treacherous terrains to feed their workshops. Yet, for all their artistry, bead making also reveals pragmatism. Broken or imperfect beads were recycled, not wasted. At sites like Dockyard, archaeologists found heaps of bead debris, proof of a thrifty, sustainable approach. This industry wasn't just about adornment, it was a window into an interconnected ancient world. Every carnelian bead carried the ingenuity of Indus craftsmen, the aspirations of far-off buyers, and the silent stories of trade routes that spanned continents. As we marvel at these tiny treasures, let's turn next to a no less intriguing wonder, the fire altars of Calibangan, where flames may have flickered with both ritual and rebellion. Now, shifting our gaze from the bustling trade of carnelian beads to the quiet intensity of sacred flames, we arrive at the fire altars of Calibangan. These enigmatic structures, lined with bricks and strewn with ash, offer a rare glimpse into the spiritual heart of the Indus Valley. Unlike the grand temples of Egypt or Mesopotamia, these altars were humble yet profound, hinting at rituals that may have bridged the earthly and the divine. Calibangan, a city straddling modern-day India and Pakistan, reveals not one but multiple fire altars, each carefully arranged in a raised platform within what archaeologists believe was a ceremonial complex. The design is deliberate, rectangular or circular pits lined with clay or bricks, some even featuring a central pillar. Most striking is the presence of alternating layers of ash and clay, suggesting repeated use over time. But what exactly transpired here? Was this a place of animal sacrifice, as burnt bones nearby might imply? Or were these flames part of purification rites akin to later Vedic traditions? The debate is far from settled. One compelling theory ties these altars to early forms of fire worship, possibly a precursor to the Hindu god Agni. The precise alignment of some altars with celestial events like solstices fuels speculation that they served astronomical or calendrical purposes. Yet others argue they were communal hearths where fires symbolized unity or even social hierarchy. The absence of grand idols or elaborate iconography, a hallmark of Indus sites, makes these altars all the more intriguing. Their power lay not in ornamentation but in ritual action. Adding to the mystery, similar fire altars appear at other sites like Banawali, but Calibangan stand out for their sheer number and preservation. Some show evidence of offerings, grains, pottery, even terracotta figurines, hinting at a spiritual economy where fire mediated between humans and the unseen. The ash layers tell a story of continuity, as if generations tended these flames, each adding their own layer of devotion. Yet, skepticism persists. Could these simply be industrial furnaces? The nearby presence of kilns complicates the picture, but the altar's isolation in a distinct complex leans toward ritual use. The Indus people, pragmatic yet profound, likely saw fire as both tool and symbol, a transformer of matter and spirit. As the embers of this debate glow on, we're reminded that some wonders resist easy explanation. Next, we'll confront another contentious relic, the elusive horse of the Indus Valley, whose bones may rewrite history. Now, turning from the sacred flames of Kalibangan to a debate that stirs both scholars and history enthusiasts alike, we encounter the enigmatic question of horses in the Indus Valley. This isn't just about animal remains, it's a puzzle that could reshape our understanding of the civilization's connections to later cultures, particularly the Vedic traditions that flourished in ancient India. The controversy centers on a simple yet profound absence. While the Indus Valley people left behind detailed depictions of bulls, elephants, and even unicorns on their seals, hard evidence of horses is strikingly scarce. A handful of disputed findings like terracotta figurines or skeletal fragments have sparked fierce debate. Some archaeologists argue these specimens belong to later periods, suggesting horses were introduced to the region only after the civilization's decline, possibly by migrating Indo-European groups. Others, however, point to ambiguous seal markings or contested bones at sites like Surkottada as proof that the Indus people did know horses, albeit rarely. Why does this matter? Horses are pivotal in Vedic texts like the Rig Veda, which glorify them as symbols of power and mobility. If horses were absent in the Indus Valley but central to the Vedic people, it could imply a cultural disconnect between the two civilizations. This fuels the larger theory that the Vedic culture arrived from outside rather than evolving from the Indus tradition. On the flip side, if horses were present, it might suggest continuity, blending the narrative of these two ancient worlds. The evidence is tantalizing but inconclusive. At Surkottada, a team led by archaeologist Sandor Berkane identified horse bones dating to around 2100 BC, squarely within the Indus era. Yet critics counter that the bones could belong to wild asses or were misdated. Similarly, a seal from Mohenjo-Daro, often interpreted as a horse-like figure, lacks the definitive features of the animal, leaving room for doubt. Beyond bones and seals, linguistic clues add layers to the mystery. The Indus script remains undeciphered, but later Vedic Sanskrit has clear words for horse Ashva and chariot Ratha. If the Indus people had horses, why no explicit imagery or textual references? Or did they simply not prioritize them culturally? The debate isn't just academic, it's about identity and legacy. For those who see the Indus Valley as a cradle of Indian civilization, the horse question challenges or confirms ties to Vedic heritage. Meanwhile, skeptics urge caution, reminding us that absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence. Perhaps future excavations will settle the dispute, but for now, the horse remains a ghost at the edges of Indus history. As we ponder this elusive creature, our next wonder takes us to the coast, where the Indus people turned seashells into symbols of artistry and trade. Now, let's leave the dusty debate over horses behind and journey to the shimmering coasts of the Indus Valley, where the civilization's artisans turn the gifts of the sea into stunning symbols of status and skill. Here, in bustling shell working centers like those at Balakot and Nadeshwar, the Indus people transformed humble seashells into intricate bangles, beads, and ornaments, artifacts that whisper tales of trade, craftsmanship, and even identity. The shell industry was no small affair. archaeologists have uncovered entire workshops dedicated to shaping shells, where artisans meticulously cut, polished, and drilled materials like chank, turbinella, and fasciolaria shells into delicate wearable art. These weren't just trinkets. Shell bangles, often found in graves and residential areas, may have signaled marital status or social rank, given how frequently they appear in clusters on skeletal remains. Some bangles were even painted with black designs, suggesting a blend of utility and artistry that mirrored the civilization's broader aesthetic sensibilities. But the story deepens when we follow the shells beyond the workshop. Many of these shells weren't local. They came from distant coasts like the Gulf of Kutch or even the Arabian Sea, hinting at a sprawling trade network. Coastal settlements like Lothal, with their dockyards, likely served as hubs where raw shells arrived and finished goods departed. The scale of production was staggering. At sites like Mohenjo-Daro, piles of shell debris reveal workshops operating almost like factories, producing not just bangles but also ladles, inlays, and even gaming pieces. What's particularly striking is the uniformity. Shell bangles across the civilization share near identical dimensions, echoing the standardized weights and bricks we've seen elsewhere. This wasn't haphazard craftsmanship, it was a system. Some scholars argue these workshops might have been state-regulated, churning out goods to meet demand from elites or trade partners as far as Mesopotamia, where Indus-style shell ornaments have been found. Yet, for all their practicality, these objects also carried meaning. The chank shell, for instance, held ritual significance in later Indian cultures, associated with fertility and divinity. Could the Indus people have shared similar beliefs? A shell necklace isn't just jewelry, it's a clue. As we marvel at these seaside atolls, our next wonder pulls us inland, where the Indus Valley's ingenuity bloomed in fields of white gold cotton. Now, let's turn our gaze from the shimmering coasts to the sun-drenched fields where the Indus Valley Civilization achieved something extraordinary, mastering the art of cotton cultivation long before the rest of the world. This wasn't just about growing a crop, it was a revolution in fabric and trade that would leave its mark across ancient civilizations. The Indus Valley stands as the earliest known pioneer of cotton production, with evidence dating back to around 5500 BCE. Archaeologists have uncovered fragments of cotton cloth at sites like Mohenjo-Daro, preserved miraculously in silver pots and copper artifacts. These fragments, though tiny, tell a monumental story. They reveal that the people of the Indus Valley weren't just weaving cotton, they were perfecting it. The threads were spun with such precision that they rival the quality of modern textiles, a testament to their advanced understanding of fiber processing. But how did they do it? The answer lies in their ingenuity. The fertile plains of the Indus, nourished by seasonal floods, provided the ideal conditions for growing Gossypium arboreum, a native cotton species. Unlike later civilizations that relied on animal fibers like wool or flax, the Indus people harnessed the softness and durability of cotton, creating fabrics that were both comfortable and versatile. They developed sophisticated tools for spinning and weaving, including spindle whorls and needles, which have been found in abundance across excavation sites. The impact of this innovation stretched far beyond their borders. Cotton from the Indus Valley became a coveted commodity, traded extensively with Mesopotamia and even Egypt. Mesopotamian texts from as early as 2500 BCE mention Sind, hu cloth, likely referring to cotton fabrics imported from the Indus region. These textiles were so prized that they became status symbols, worn by elites and even used as tribute in diplomatic exchanges. The trade routes buzzed with caravans carrying bales of cotton, linking the Indus Valley to a web of ancient economies. What's equally fascinating is the scale of their production. The sheer volume of spindle whorls and loom weights found in cities like Harappa suggests cotton weaving wasn't just a cottage industry, it was a large-scale enterprise. Some researchers argue that certain neighborhoods may have specialized in textile production, almost like early industrial zones. This level of organization hints at a society that didn't just innovate but also systematized its innovations for maximum efficiency. Yet, cotton's significance wasn't merely economic. It may have held cultural weight too. The prevalence of cotton in burial sites where shrouds and garments have been found suggests it played a role in rituals or social identity. Could the choice of cotton over other fabrics reflect deeper beliefs about purity or prestige? The answers remain woven into the fabric of time. As we marvel at this agricultural triumph, our next wonder draws us into the heart of the cities themselves, where the Indus people defied the limits of their era with another architectural leap: multi-story buildings. Now, let's step into the bustling streets of the Indus Valley cities, where the skyline wasn't just flat and monotonous, it reached upward, defying the architectural norms of its time. Multi-story buildings were a striking feature of urban life here, showcasing a level of sophistication that still impresses modern archaeologists. Walk through the ruins of Mohenjo-Daro or Harappa, and you'll notice something remarkable. The foundations and surviving walls reveal clear evidence of structures that rose beyond a single floor. Staircases, some still intact, wind their way up through what were once homes and workshops, hinting at a vertical expansion unusual for the ancient world. These weren't just haphazard additions. The buildings were carefully planned, with load-bearing walls thick enough to support additional levels and internal courtyards that provided light and ventilation, a clever solution to the challenges of urban density. What's even more fascinating is how these multi-story homes were built to last. The Indus builders used standardized kiln-fired bricks, uniform in size and remarkably durable. These bricks weren't just stacked randomly, they were laid in alternating patterns, a technique that distributed weight evenly and prevented collapse. Some structures even show signs of wooden beams or reinforced floors, suggesting an early understanding of multi-level construction principles. It's no exaggeration to say that these techniques wouldn't look out of place in later civilizations, centuries ahead of their time. But why did they build upward? The answer lies in the constraints and opportunities of city life. With limited space within the fortified walls of their cities, the Indus people had to maximize every square foot. Multi-story buildings allowed them to house more families, workshops, and storage spaces without sprawling uncontrollably. This wasn't just practical, it reflected a highly organized society. Neighborhoods weren't chaotic jumbles of single-story huts. They were carefully planned, with streets laid out in grids and buildings rising efficiently to accommodate growing populations. The social implications are equally intriguing. Not all homes were created equal. Some multi-story structures were more elaborate, with wider staircases, larger rooms, and even private wells. These might have belonged to wealthier merchants or officials, suggesting a society with distinct social tiers. Yet, even the more modest multi-story homes show evidence of thoughtful design, like shared drainage systems that connected to the city's advanced sewer network. This blend of communal infrastructure and private living spaces paints a picture of a society that balanced individuality with collective responsibility. And then there's the question of daily life. Imagine climbing those narrow staircases to reach upper-floor living quarters where families slept, cooked, or worked on crafts. The ground floors might have hosted workshops or shops with their goods spilling out onto the streets. The vertical layout would have created a vibrant, layered urban experience, voices drifting down from above, the hum of activity rising from below. It's a snapshot of a city that felt alive, dynamic, and surprisingly modern in its rhythms. As we marvel at these architectural feats, our journey isn't over yet. One final wonder awaits, one that challenges everything we think we know about ancient societies: the curious absence of war. Now, let's step into one of the most puzzling mysteries of the Indus Valley, a civilization that seems to have thrived without the shadow of war. While other ancient powers like Mesopotamia or Egypt built towering fortresses and filled their art with scenes of battle, the Indus people left behind almost no evidence of warfare. No grand depictions of conquest, no stockpiles of weapons, not even the ruins of defensive walls meant to keep invaders at bay. It's a silence that speaks volumes, inviting us to reconsider what we know about the ancient world. Look closely at the archaeological record, and the absence is striking. Unlike their contemporaries, the Indus cities lacked the usual markers of militarization. There are no monuments glorifying kings as warriors, no mass graves hinting at violent conflict, and no artifacts like swords or armor that dominate other ancient sites. Instead, the tools we find are practical plows, needles, pottery wheels crafted for daily life, not destruction. Even their cities, though carefully planned, weren't built with towering fortifications. The few walls discovered seem designed more for flood control than defense, suggesting a society more concerned with nature's threats than human enemies. What makes this even more remarkable is the context. The Indus Valley Civilization flourished alongside Mesopotamia and Egypt, two regions where war was not just common but celebrated. Kings boasted of their conquests in inscriptions, and entire economies revolved around the spoils of battle. Yet in the Indus cities, trade, not conquest, seems to have been the driving force. Their seals and artifacts have been found as far away as Oman and Mesopotamia, evidence of a network built on exchange rather than expansion. Could this have been a culture that prioritized commerce over conflict? Theories abound about why war played such a minimal role here. Some scholars suggest the civilization's geographic isolation, protected by rivers, mountains, and deserts, made large-scale invasions unlikely. Others point to the apparent lack of a centralized warrior king elite, proposing instead a more collective or merchant-driven leadership. But perhaps the most compelling idea is that the Indus people simply developed a different social model, one where cooperation and stability were valued above territorial ambition. This doesn't mean the Indus Valley was a utopia free from tension. A few human remains show signs of injury, and occasional weapons like copper spears have been found. But these are exceptions, not the norm. The overwhelming impression is of a society that resolved disputes without systemic violence, possibly through trade, diplomacy, or shared cultural norms. Even their art reflects this. Instead of battle scenes, we see dancers, animals, and symbols of fertility, a visual language centered on life rather than domination. Of course, the absence of evidence isn't always evidence of absence. Could weapons have been made of perishable materials like wood, leaving no trace? Might later invasions or environmental disasters have erased signs of conflict? These questions linger, but the weight of current findings still tilts toward an unusually peaceful society. As we close our exploration of the Indus Valley's forgotten wonders, their legacy challenges our assumptions. In a world where ancient history is often written by the victors of wars, here was a civilization that may have written its story differently, one where cities rose not through conquest but through ingenuity, collaboration, and an enduring focus on the rhythms of daily life. It's a reminder that peace, too, can be a wonder worth remembering. If these glimpses into the past have intrigued you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more journeys into history's hidden corners. Share your thoughts in the comments. Which of these forgotten wonders fascinated you the most? Until next time, keep exploring. But before we wrap up, let's take a moment to reflect on the incredible journey we've just taken through the Indus Valley's forgotten wonders. From the engineering genius of the Great Bath to the maritime mastery of Lothal's Dockyard, each discovery has peeled back another layer of this civilization's brilliance. Think about the precision of their grid-planned cities, rivaling modern urban designs, or the haunting beauty of the dancing girl statue frozen in time. Consider the mystery of their undeciphered script, still whispering secrets across millennia, or the peaceful society that seemingly thrived without the drums of war. These aren't just relics, they're clues to a civilization that was astonishingly ahead of its time. What's truly remarkable is how these wonders challenge our assumptions about ancient societies. We're used to equating progress with grand monuments and military might, yet the Indus Valley flourished differently. Their achievements were rooted in practicality and harmony, advanced drainage systems that kept cities clean, standardized weights that fueled trade, even terracotta toys that remind us of their humanity. They didn't build pyramids or ziggurats. Instead, they crafted a legacy of innovation that served everyday life. Now, we'd love to hear from you. Which of these wonders left the deepest impression? Was it the fire altars hinting at early rituals, or the cotton cultivation that clothed an ancient world? Maybe the unicorn seals with their playful mystery captured your imagination. Drop your thoughts in the comments. We're as curious about your perspectives as we are about the past. If this glimpse into the Indus Valley has sparked your curiosity, don't let the exploration end here. Hit that subscribe button and join us as we uncover more hidden chapters of history. From lost empires to buried treasures, there's always another mystery waiting to be revealed. Thank you for journeying with us, and until next time, keep wondering, keep questioning, and keep discovering. The past, after all, is never really forgotten. It's just waiting for us to listen.